Hey everyone, happy Friday. This is an update on Chainlink, and Chainlink has somewhat of a bullish setup in place. In our last update, we had what looked like a 5-wave impulse, and we were in the midst of some kind of a corrective pullback, but it also had an alternate pattern, a potential setup for some immediate downside that has not yet materialized. So we're going to take a closer look at that and also compare some of the other altcoins to what Chainlink is doing, as well as the stock market. These charts will be available in the description below, so check out the links down there if you are interested. So this is the 30-minute chart on Chainlink specifically, and you can see in green, this is our bullish pattern. I'm calling this low here on June 18th, the official bottom, just because it aligns better with some of the other cryptos, and it makes for something somewhat more of a bullish pattern. So this says we have a 5-wave impulse up, and we have completed a second wave pullback, a little bit deeper than standard, but acceptable. And we should be off to the races pretty soon. This could be a nested first wave, a subwave one for this larger third wave. We need to get through our pivot zone, which is between the 0.764 and 0.618 extensions of our initial 1-2, and that falls between $7.21 and $7.52. If we can get through there, that more or less tells us that we really are done with whatever this pattern is, and that we're in either a third wave or a C wave. Now, the bearish pattern is still here. It looms in red, and that shows that this bounce here is a corrective 3-wave zigzag, which is believable because if we look at this as an impulse and the fact that we had a higher low here does make it quite credible as an ABC corrective zigzag rally. If that's the case, we probably should have started descending relatively soon. We haven't quite done that yet. So you can hold out some hope that we can put that behind us. But until we see some more conclusive action, we can't rule that out. That would be a very unusual fourth wave. Fourth wave referring to this being possibly a 1, 2, 3 with a long fourth wave and a fifth wave to come. I don't like that pattern, but it got to keep that open as an option because you never know what will happen next. Otherwise, we should start getting through the pivot zone relatively quick, and our subwave 3 should get us between 884 and 935 with a final top around 966 to 1017. Once we get that fifth wave up there, we should see a corrective pullback. That will be your chance to buy if you're looking to go long more confidently. If you've been just dollar cost averaging or nibbling here and there, keep doing your thing. There's no obvious downside setup at the moment yet. This pullback doesn't look like a 5-wave impulse to me, so not really anything particularly confident in terms of immediate downside. When we look at some of the other coins, the main OG coins, Bitcoin, similar stance, although much more bullish. One could argue that this is an ABC corrective rally, but we have gotten through our pivot zone. We keep punching through, and we've maintained the bottom support. So that is a good sign. As long as we stay above 21,132 in Bitcoin, this thing is alive and well, and we should have some more upside. When we look at Ethereum, same story here, although we haven't broken through the pivot zone yet. So Ethereum is running a little behind Bitcoin. And when you look at some of our other coins for reference, other altcoins, Dash is trailing a little bit, hasn't really burst through yet. And Stellar Lumens, same thing. So we need to see some more upside action before we can call this at least confirmed for the now. Now, when we look at our short-term picture, this is the ES mini futures, which represents the S&P 500. We have what looks like a larger corrective rally. So what that means is that we had 3 waves up. Back here, I'm going to take these away for a second. A, B, C. Corrective rally, B wave down, and we were probably in the middle of a C wave impulse. And well, we are also in a similar stance here in which we start to pierce into that pivot box here. Things look pretty clean earlier today, although we seem to be in a bit of a sideways correction. I'm fully expecting this thing to blast through and possibly get into the 4,000 plus range for the S&P. If that is going to happen, we may see cryptos run ahead just because cryptos do trade around the clock, 24 hours throughout the weekend, all that stuff. The stock market doesn't do the same. So oftentimes you will see the stock market run ahead. Cryptos will catch up or run ahead on the weekend. Stock market will catch up, so on and so forth. You catch my drift. We've seen that happen several times over the past few weeks and months in which you had bloody red days in the stock market followed by lots of bloodshed over the weekends and cryptos in which they were catching up to the downside. Shifting to the big picture chart, nothing has changed. Our supports remain the same. Our MACD divergence had no reason to change anymore, so we don't have much of a stretch at the moment, and we haven't made any new lower lows, nothing like that. So right now we are still following red as our primary pattern, which does have the fourth wave behind us, the red fourth wave. The alternate pattern here calls for a potential lower low. So that would be the orange tangerine colored pattern. And if we get that lower low, we could go a good bit lower than this. So right now we're sitting in the mid $6 range. Could get down to 415 or 339, in which we have Fibonacci confluence. I don't see that as the strongest possibility, but we have stretched quite a bit. So keep your eyes out for that. It wouldn't really invalidate anything, unlike some of the other coins. There's no real major support below us that would jeopardize this rally. Now, if you guys remember a little further back, I was counting this entire thing as a 5-wave impulse up, but I have revised my interpretation in which, well, I see this as a major third wave top here. Back here, you have a 1-2 third wave. There's no clear fourth wave internally. I know some of these sideways consolidations could be counted as fourth waves, especially this one back here, but the proportions don't seem to really work out. This looks like the third of a third, maybe. That could be the third wave, fourth wave, fifth wave, but I would expect a slightly longer fourth wave, more like a dogleg pattern. So you never know. Maybe, maybe not. The bigger reason for why I'm interpreting this as I am is because the bigger altcoins, as well as Bitcoin, have a very different interpretation in which they also see this top as a third wave. And the bottom could have been either in, could have been March 2020 or way back in end of 2018, depending on your interpretation. Bitcoin, Ethereum do see the bottom back here in December of 2018. I believe Dash also may, can't recall off the top of my head, but we see this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. However, there are a lot of coins that are following the same pattern that Bitcoin Cash and Dash are following, in which we see this has the same major third wave top, but we are actually in a final 3-wave corrective rally for a 5th wave. So in other words, A, B, and a C wave to go. That is basically giving us more and more lean towards us having one final rally. And as I mentioned before, in Chainlink, we don't really have any history of anything corrective looking, no zigzags or anything like that. So I fully expect our final rally to take 5-wave impulsive form, as shown in green right here. And we need to get this ball rolling relatively soon. Expect something to get us into the upper teens range of $16, $17. We need to see a clear 5-wave rally structure in order to give us more credibility. When we look at our short-term picture, our current impulse top, the Fibonacci extension tool, is aiming towards about right around the $10 mark. Whereas here, I'm looking for 19. So you could imagine that we get this 5-wave rally up to about $10, get our second wave, and then we have a larger impulse that does make it into that upper teens range. If we get that nested impulsive setup, smaller 5-wave setup, and then a bigger 5-wave, and then a pullback, that will be your cue to buy if you're trying to go aggressive, putting in more money to catch this ride from possibly the mid-teens range, $13, $14, all the way up to $60+. That would be the time to do it. Eventually, we would expect our top to still fall within this aqua blue box here. A lot of confluence, and this is a standard target for a 5th wave based on the larger impulsive structure. Not to mention there's a lot of confluences up there as well. So 107 is a strong point of confluence based on what we're calling the original 1-2 structure. And there's other confluences there as well. We will have strong resistance at whatever all-time high was, right around that $54 mark. So we could see our third wave struggling to get through that before we have a final blow off there. That top will very likely coincide with the everything top, which I'll continue referring to throughout many of my videos, in which we're going to see a major top in stocks, possibly in energy, in bonds, as well as the crypto space. And we could be entering quite a bear market at that point. So that'll be a good time to get out. We're not seeing any signs of that yet. We have a lot more upside action we need to see before we can even start thinking about those upside targets. As for what you can do now, as I mentioned, you can keep buying as you go. I would not recommend panic selling unless you need the cash for something else, for trying to make a down payment or pay off debt or something. Paying off debt is always a smart choice, especially when you're dealing with risk assets. The other thing is, if you have too much cash tied up in Chainlink, strongly recommend diversifying it, unless you're working with Bitcoin or Ethereum. If you're doing altcoins like Litecoin, Doge, Polygon, EOS, whatever it is, divide it up between several different ones, because they're high risk, high reward, of course, but you never know which ones are going to outperform and which ones could go to zero. We've seen that happen in some of the other coins over the past several months and years. So I'm going to have plenty more updates coming your way. Subscribe so that you don't miss those. And until next time, thank you for watching and happy trading.